All right. And just like that, we are live. Welcome, Rogue 420 fans. This is CJ, and today I am very excited because we're doing something brand new. Today is the inaugural podcast of Harvest and Plume magazine and the Cannabis session. So this is CJ, your host, and I'm here with founder, creator, extraordinaire, Kim McCarthy. So Kim, welcome to Rogue 420. Great to have you back. How are you today?
I'm great. I am so great. Thank you so much for having me. There's so much.
It's my pleasure. It's absolutely my pleasure. I'm glad to be here. So we talked a little bit before we went live, and Kim, I just have to be honest. You're doing some amazing things in the hemp, in the cannabis industry. But before we do that, since it's the inaugural podcast, why don't you share a little bit for the listeners that are learning about this for the first time, a little bit more about yourself and your work with the cannabis sessions, and then also with the Harvest and Plume.
Absolutely. I have a primary brand called the Pipeline Strategies, and that's a people strategies firm. And part of that is a media marketing division that now has 3 magazines. And one is a branded magazine, the Pipeline Strategies, again, focusing on people strategies and campaigns. And then the other 2 are meeting a very defined need in hemp and cannabis. And we have the magazine separate for a few reasons. Harvest and Plume is an international magazine, and both of them are optimized digitally, but they're also available in print. But having the Harvest and Plume focus on hemp, that allows for more destigmatizing worldwide of the plant and the available resources, impact, and technologies that it has. And very excited. It's been well received. And then almost immediately after, I had quite a few individuals reach out. As you know, the Cannabis Sessions was in pre-launch. It's been in pre-launch for quite some time. And because of Harvest and Plume, the cannabis side wanted basically the same representation. And that happened to come along at the same time of some other opportunities. And it was literally just the perfect opportunity to say, launch.
Yeah, amazing. I love it. I follow your work not only on LinkedIn, but also on Facebook, and then also your pages. And it sounds like you have some pretty darn neat things going on. So why don't you share with our listeners in regards to some of the events that you have coming up, because I think there's quite a bit on your radar right now. So let's fold that out, how our listeners can participate, how they can get involved, because I know you're on a lot of different platforms, and I think it's important that they know where they can go to follow your work.
Thank you so much. Well, what I'm working on now, I've been brought in as a media partner with the Metamorphosis Retreat. And the Metamorphosis Retreat is an organization that is bringing together investors and economic empowerment entrepreneurs. And taking a step back, because of this emerging industry, we're kind of wrangling with a few things. And there's positive and negative. And once the negative is unveiled, then it's much easier to be able to wrestle with it and know how it fits in. Until that happens, it's kind of a guessing game. So the Metamorphosis Retreat is bringing together these economic empowerment entrepreneurs and investors in a safe and secure environment, because these investors have been vetted. And as a matter of fact, we've identified 13 who, and 9 of them are women-owned, women CEOs.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
Yeah, another big
Very
one
cool.
there.
Yep.
So we're reaching out to, it's starting in Massachusetts, and we're hoping to be able to take this nationwide. So it's a really big deal. We're very excited.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I love that aspect, because again, this is something that relates to the industry. You touched on a couple of important points, and that's the fact that, this industry is for the most part still learning, still growing. There's people who do understand quite a bit more in this space that have been in a little bit longer, but in terms of industry experts, that takes a little bit of time. We're learning a lot about the phases, and let's face it, with the regulations that are not only a national level but also state by state, it can get very confusing pretty easily.
Very. It's amazing because, I mean, you just kind of get to the point where you say, just make it legal federally, will you? Because that's going to make it so much easier instead of having individual states having to come up with their own cannabis compliance commissions and control commissions, and have it regulated in the same sense. And with that comes along all of the resources to actually make it work, as opposed to um, manipulated.
Hmm.
That someone, anytime there's a new emerging industry, there's always going to be at least one that's going to try to manipulate it and leverage to their benefit. And really, what we want to do is to open up beyond that, because this is a big old industry. There's no reason for anyone to fail.
Right,
There's so
right.
much we can contribute to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's in part how I look at it. Like if you think of some of the emerging economies, whether it's different industries, I take a look at hemp and the cannabis industry as probably the two of the most exciting industries that are going to just be growing significantly, and not only just from the hemp perspective as it relates to CBD, but also all the not only the products and services that are going to come from the hemp wood, the hempcrete, all those things, but there's so many different auxiliary businesses that come from this industry. Why don't you share a little bit around some of those? Because I run into new ones each day. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was there for this industry. But why don't you share a little bit around the dynamics of this industry?
Absolutely. On the hemp side, I've been speaking to the CEO of Hip to be Hemp, and he is the only one who offers a hemp filter, and it's absolutely fantastic. Um, some people may laugh at me, but because it's important, I am a vegan and I live a vegan lifestyle. But these filters are vegan, meaning there are no toxic glues or adhesives. There's no wire that holds the hemp uh, material to it. It's literally sewn in. It can be cleaned. It's absolutely amazing. Matter of fact, I have one on the way. I'm having it to me. And that's important because my son has allergy induced asthma of unknown origin. So, how do you fix that? And that's actually what started my journey into hemp about 7 years ago, and found out that hemp is the best filtration system, whether it's in hempcrete, whether it's through a filter. Um, I love all these technologies and impacts that people are coming out with. There's a water filtration system that they're using, the biochar. So
Hmm.
again, fantastic that we're coming up with these great things that are not having a horrible impact on the environment,
Yep.
and it can be easily available to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. I think that those are some exciting things because again, you just shared with them some things that I was not, aware of. And then what is about as far as like the cannabis sites? What other kind of neat things are you working with in different organizations, different companies? Because I know your work is vast and it covers a lot. So I want to ensure your day never stops, right? But
It
when you love
doesn't.
what you do, that's okay. It's we have a lot of fun.
I, you know, just to let you know everything that's going on with me, uh, within the pipeline strategies, I have a talent acquisition and recruiting firm called the Pipeline Recruiting. And we're getting ready to franchise that so that we can create more opportunity, economic opportunity, and career opportunity for it's actually going to be launching in India. Um, Probably another podcast on that, but the very short story is it creates a lot of opportunity because the Indian, excuse me, market is completely saturated with IT professionals. And that forces a group into lesser roles, or roles that are not clearly defined with regard to their career. So they're forced into these roles like sales or recruiting, and then eventually move up into what they really want to do. And um, so this is amazing. I found this out. Some of them work and don't even get paid. I mean, like the employer makes a choice on that.
Oh, wow. That's
I
different.
know.
That's different labor laws.
I know. So being able to own their own, they don't like the term franchise. So as an independent partner, that gives them more control, literally, over being paid or not. So
Mm.
this is creating another opportunity for them. Um, and then, of course, I have the magazines, and I'm reaching out to different um, industries and market movers, because I've reached a point in my career where, okay, yeah, I could keep recruiting, or I can keep delivering training and development presentations, but how can we make things better? And that's what I like, because I'm able to expand on my own and take some of these new emerging industries such as cannabis and hemp, and start putting some form and practice around it, so that we have less of that Wild West frontier and more of how can this benefit. And then that's when you start listing everything: my company, my community, my health. It just keeps going on.
Yeah, I brought up the website. I'm going to do a screen share real quick, because I think it's pretty cool. So this is for our listeners, and hopefully everyone can see my screen. Kim, can you see my screen as well right now?
I can.
You should be able to see it. Yeah. So this is the website, the pipeline strategies, and you just conveyed. I love the fact that in terms of what you're doing and taking it to that scope of international now. In terms of the pipeline strategies, and so what other work is involved with that? I mean, it sounds very interesting. So, what other things are you guys working on with the pipeline strategies?
Um, Working with some brands on, they're called people pipelines. And for the pipeline strategies, that breaks down into really three things: attracting, recruiting, and retaining your professionals, your ideal professionals. So, what happens when you actually create your own people strategies and people pipelines? Then you can brand yourself as an employer of choice. So, then not as many wasted monies go into a recruiting budget, because truth be told, most people think recruiting sales, and it's not, and they'll argue with you on that all
Mm.
day long. But I'm doing a presentation at WIFS in October that proves why it's not. Um, it's really job shopping, it's not sales. So
Okay.
you don't follow the sales funnel or sales KPIs to try to get better recruiting efforts. Um, you really need to learn how to attract, how to recruit, and then keep those people, because you want people to say, I'd work for that brand, instead of, oh, yeah, I got recruited by him. Because
Yeah.
if you got recruited by him, you're going to get recruited out of them.
Right, right. No, I can definitely see that in terms of it's a little bit different thought process. I like it because I historically it always led more with where the statement that good people don't leave good companies, good people leave bad leaders. So you can kind of tie that together in terms of the branding and how that relates to human resource with recruiting aspects that it's a brand that people can be proud of. So it's kind of like that same message, just a little bit different.
Exactly. And in the cannabis industry, people wrongfully assume if you're an enthusiast, then you're going to be a great employee. And no, that's not it at all. They need to understand their skill sets. And especially with cannabis, uh, there may not be a degree, but there's definitively experience that can
Yeah.
carry over. And that comes, I get tons of qualified professionals who come to me saying, I just want to get in. And
Mm.
that could be from the supply side. It could be from control. I prefer to work with the directors and above, to the
Yep.
C-suite.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's, I think it's more challenging to find all the entry level people and to keep them in there.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
you really need to have a better people strategy to know how to keep junior people in and develop them. through your process.
Yeah, I find that a lot. People that, because I'm in the industry as well, people that are very excited to jump in. Hey, raise their hand. I want to get started. And everything. What are your words of caution to either people wanting to jump in, or even employers as it relates to? Do you have like a couple of either best practices in terms of either, hey, I'm wanting to get into this industry. Where's a good place to start? How should I? What advice would you give to those individuals?
Honestly, I would say, do you know what you're getting into? That's the first thing. Um,
You're right. I'm
yeah.
shutting down this podcast right now.
I mean, that's
I'm just kidding.
like, okay, this is the truth. Know what you're getting into, know who the players are, and know how those players work. Um, I have a specialty in financial services. I have FINRA licensing, not registered, but I was the AVP of recruiting and marketing for a broker dealer and worked very closely with compliance. And we've talked about this. I love working with compliance and regulations because then you know the lay of the land. As soon as you know the lay of the land, it's like the 9-dot game. As soon as you know you're allowed to go outside of those dots to accomplish the goal, then you know your field just got a lot bigger, regardless
Right.
of the size.
Yeah.
So the impact is definitely there when you know how to work it.
Yeah, and let's talk about that just for a minute. And it's a good segue into what is kind of catching the national attention. And just so our listeners know, like Kim and I, we don't like sit there for like hours on end and strategize regarding our podcast. You're getting this live, and they're all having these discussions. So hopefully at some point that I remember one time I was doing a podcast interview and someone threw out a phase that I wasn't familiar with. I think it was called not vaporware. What was it called? Anyway, long story short, I completely associated with something else and was way off base. And they brought it back in and made it like, oh yeah, you kind of knew what you're talking about. But anyway, it's just kind of fun. And where I want to go with that conversation as it relates to compliance is the right now in terms of the the vape, and because it does kind of cross over into our work, with hemp and CBD and everything. So do you have any, preliminary thoughts right now in terms of that, really, kind of capturing, national attention and everything right now?
I do. Again, I watch everyone's,
Pardon me.
the leaders' posts. To be honest with you, primarily on LinkedIn, if anyone wants to know where I'm getting my information. And so I believe that what's going on with the vape situation is clearly it has nothing to do with THC. Um, but I think that it's one of a few things. One, it could be they've never thought about testing the vape after it's been in an alloy and out for however long. And is this a cheap alloy? You know, I mean, I don't like to point fingers at countries. It's more of the practice, the company who's producing this product. Is it safe in terms of the alloy that they're putting? Sure, that the product may be good that they're putting in there, but then after it
Your
sits,
suppliers, absolutely. Yep.
and then there are the additives.
Mm-hmm.
Additives are always chemicals, and usually from a synthetic perspective. So
Yeah,
from a
and then
vegan perspective, you just got to say, oh, that's like yellow number 5.
sure, and then in terms of just thinking about it from a compliance standpoint, that's why I'm a pro freedom, pro liberty minded individual. You live your life, I'll live mine. You don't have to necessarily infringe upon telling me what to do, but in terms of that aspect, there does need to be certain compliance to keep people out of harm's way, because as much as we'd like to think in the industry that it's a great industry and everything, there's going to be bad actors in any type of industry that you go into, whether it's education, law enforcement. It's one of those variables that's really uncontrollable. So to me, some of the testing, the compliance, which you alluded to, I think it kind of is, it's very important as it relates to this industry. Now, the national conversation, it turns to be like, hey, we just need to ban this altogether, which is very reckless, because then all that's going to do is, we know for a fact that some of this bad product that's coming in is strictly coming from the black market, that it's untested, that they're not validating. So all you're going to do then is really bring people more into having to go search for those individuals to find those products, versus not. So it's just kind of, I think, the reverse thought process.
Mhm.
And I think probably at some point I'll probably have a little bit more conversation going to, because the information is still, we don't know a lot of things in terms of what they're putting out in the reporting. It's just more one of those things that we just want to be mindful of. But it falls back to exactly what you just said: due diligence, compliance, know who your partners are, know where you're sourcing from. All those things are important, and that's why I'm excited about the work that you're doing with your publication, with the pipeline strategies. I think it's a great blend in terms of bringing it together.
Thank you. I agree. Isn't it funny how the universe just brings things to you in a variety of ways? And it was definitely an aha for me to say, how beautifully could I have packaged this? I couldn't have done it any better.
Yep.
The
No,
universe did it for me.
absolutely. And then more importantly, also getting in our network and the ability for us to do the podcast session together with Harvest and Plume and the cannabis session. So why don't we close out, Kim, if you want to, any other information you want to convey in terms of any projects going on, how listeners can learn more about your work, and then also please plug your social handles and your website, please.
Okay. Well, to be honest with you, the most important project I'm working on right now is the Metamorphosis Retreat. It's happening in Massachusetts, September 28th, so it's only a couple of weeks away. And we have some fantastic investors, entrepreneurs, and sponsors who are involved. And it's really cool because all the pitching and the sealing is going to happen on a yacht. They've all been vetted out, and we're putting it on there for you.
Yep, I just brought up the site so everyone can see that. So the metamorphosisretreat.com. And so you can go to Harvest and Plume's Facebook page to learn more about that. And there's a website set up. So that sounds very interesting. I'm excited that maybe once you get back from there, we can do a podcast to kind of share information. If there's anyone there that would be interested in jumping on doing a podcast with us, we can do that as well together.
Absolutely.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. And then your Facebook page, and then also I saw that there's a YouTube channel now as well for Harvest and Plume. So congratulations on that. I saw that.
I'm trying to get it all. These are like housekeeping issues.
And then in the jump line, the pipelinestrategies.com, and then you're very active on LinkedIn as well. So great job with all that, and I look forward to continued success. And again, we'll be back next week with another Harvest and Plume and the Cannabis Session podcast. So Kim, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great.
Yep, it was a lot of fun. Take care. Thank you.